Hey, beautiful. Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Closing Deals in Heels. I am your host, Kayla Hodges, and today we're doing something really special. This is a solo podcast of how the hell R.E.D even came about. This methodology, where it came from, how this company started, the ins and the outs, and also a little tell-all of Jeremy and I, how we first met, how he helped with this methodology, like what's the differences between us, him, and all this other stuff, and just the intricacies of how it is being feminine in a relationship, what we've learned, what hurt, what was great, and how we've thrived through this and how we've gotten closer together. So pull up the seat, take a notebook out, put those podcast headphones on, put your AirPods on, go on a walk, do whatever you want to do. I just want you to relax and enjoy it, and I will see you inside.
Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Closing Deals in Heels.
There was one moment when I finally realized that every single thing that I was doing was like complete bullshit. I was getting up every single day, I was studying, I was reading every single sales book that I can get my hands possibly on. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would pop an Adderall, I would go to sleep, wake up naturally at 5 a.m. to study before my daughter would get up for school. And I would practice my role playing and my objection handling every morning in the mirror. I would objection handle with myself, I had little flashcards, I would go, and I would get finally to the office, and I'm calling 220 people a day. And we didn't have a smart system, okay? Like I had spreadsheets that had people's names on them, phone numbers on them. I'm calling somebody and I didn't have their names. So I called them 5 numbers down. They're like, you just called me. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, you ready to buy now? So bad. And every single training that I was doing, like, felt so gross, okay? Oh, my male managers pushing me, the guys in the office. Like, I thought I was doing every single thing right, but for some reason, something inside me felt so out of alignment. Hey, beautiful, just want to take one little second of your time to interrupt this podcast. First of all, I just want to honor you for showing up for yourself. Like, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Like, you have no idea how much it means to me. If you can just take just 1 second of your time, a little favor, and please hit the subscribe button. Please leave a review, comment on this, and share it to another woman that you know. We as women get to really stand and honor each other, and we do that by lighting fires at others' hearts. Sometimes a woman just needs to know that you believe in her and that she's capable, so please send this to her. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking that out of your time and doing that for us. You have no idea how much it helps and how much it helps us bring a really amazing guest on this show and get it out to more and more people. So thank you again. I will see you back in the show. And this one day in particular, like I just fucking had it. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm calling. And I call this guy and I start off with my script. Hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so's office. The reason why I'm calling you today is that I'm going to help you with your business. What is the biggest problem that you have going on with your business, sir? And he's like, stop effing calling me, you effing B. Like, get out, like, stop. I can't believe you guys. You're calling me every day. And he hangs up on me. And from being in like really abusive, toxic relationships, okay? Like this, like, shook me, right? Like this moment, this man screaming at me took me a moment back. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I never had this problem before when I was in B2B sales, because I would walk on job sites and you would see a young girl walking on a job site, and the only thing I would get questioned on was my intelligence, but I wouldn't ever get questioned to like, for someone to talk to me. I'm like, man, if this dude knew that he was talking to like a young woman that's a single mom, like maybe he wouldn't have yelled at me like that. And so I did something that I probably shouldn't have done, which was like I sent him a picture of me and my daughter, okay, that I had on my phone. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry that I upset you. It wasn't my intention. I'm just trying to take care of my family. And he sent me this long message back, apologizing, telling me how beautiful I was and that he wanted to take me out to dinner. Right? I'm like, that's disgusting, but I was onto something. I was like, there has to be an easier way to do this because I'm literally killing myself right now. I was taking Adderall every single day. I would try not to take it on the weekends. And so I was feeling super depleted, super exhausted on the weekends because I was like having withdrawals essentially. And I never had time for my daughter. I was making money. I hated my life. I remember I would look at the phone and I know I was just a call and I would feel sick to my stomach. And I felt like every single thing that I had learned so far, like along with my sales training, never really made sense. I got into personal development when I was 25, and my mentor was personally mentored by Jim Rohn. So he was teaching me stuff every single week and making me read all these different books and helping like rewire my brain every week when he would talk to me and help me think differently. And then I started working on Tony Robbins' career team. I went to one of his events, started going back, worked 3 different events behind the scenes and helping people, and started going through all of like NLP and strategic intervention and trauma intervention, and started learning all these different tactics. I was really obsessed with psychology. Like, how does the brain work? How does somebody make a decision? And I thought it was fascinating. I was read. And it was so weird to me because everything that I was learning was completely different than all the trainings that my company was forcing me to do. So my company would pay for me to go to different sales trainings and workshops and read different books, and I would like be studying this stuff every day. And it was completely contradictory to everything I was learning when it came to like psychology and like how to get people to change their mind and how to get somebody from one mindset to another, how to get somebody from being like stagnant to want to be driven, how to get somebody from being scared to being like happy and not afraid anymore. It was very, very different. And there was something inside of me that really felt like there had to be a better way. And a way where people would know that I was a woman. So that's where it first started. When I first developed my methodology, it was first called Heart-Driven Sales. And now it's known as R.E.D, Real, Empowering, Disarming Questions. And I knew that there had to be another way that came from like being heart-driven, that came from actually caring about somebody and letting them know that like I was here on their side, that I was on their team, and that I was gonna support them and I wasn't trying to take advantage of them. And I felt like there had to be something there. And so the way I first started sales training is I had a few of my friends reach out to me and tell me that they need help. So I had one girl, she was in fitness training and she had different fitness programs. And she messaged me, she's like, hey girl, like I really need your help. And I'm like, well, you're my friend, so I do have to charge you. So I charged her $500. I was like, you have to energetically commit and I will help build out your sales process and I'll help you make money. She's like, okay. So I'm like meeting with her on Zoom and I'm building out a process and I'm showing her like how to take somebody through a process to get them to want to buy, right? And then I didn't really know as much as I know now, but I knew that in order to get somebody to want to change their mind, they had to feel like what's going on in their life simply wasn't working. And it wasn't working enough to where they would want to change and buy from you. And so I walked through this and I showed her how to like do these different exercises to like energetically connect with the person that she's talking to and make them feel really seen by her. And I would show her different things and we would write out her script and she was practicing with me and she started closing deals. And I'm like, ooh, like, yes, like she's doing it. She's on to things. And I worked with another woman as well who created this product at home and started showing her how to sell it into different stores and stuff. She started selling stuff as well. And so like, ooh, like this is really great. I'm like, maybe I should create like a program to help women learn how to do this. So I create this program and I have no idea how to run a company at this time. No idea at all. And so I think it was called like, Sell Like a Badass. That was my program. Sell Like a Badass. It was me and 11 girls. And it was a like an 8-week container and I was going through and I was teaching them every single thing that I knew and I was role playing with them and helping them and training them and these girls were like, you know, making money and doing everything, but I had no other time because I didn't know what I was doing for business. So it was literally just me and them. I was having a bunch of one-on-ones. Like my time was completely burnt out. I was exhausted. And I get to the end of that 2 months And I'm like, I can't run a business. Like, this is so tiring. This is so hard. And I got an opportunity to go back into sales, into event sales. And I was like, I need money again. Like, I need to start crushing it. I don't want to work on this, because if you sell somebody in your own business and you have no time, you can't sell any more people, which is what I was finding. Like, I couldn't take on any more clients because I was completely full and I was so tired and so burnt out. And then I was capped with my income. I'm like, no, 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 let me go back into sales. So I go into event sales and I'm learning how to fill up events, huge arenas, with ticket sales. And so I had a team, and I worked with the company, and I was helping build this thing from the ground up, where we started to sell out events and do back of the room sales. And at one point, I had 14 guys on our team. We were selling $800,000 a month, filling out arenas in Vegas. It was absolutely incredible. And I was crushing it. Like, I was doing really, really well, crushing it. And I really wanted more. Like, I wanted ownership. I wanted to be in a place where, like, I was building something, and I was just having like disagreement with the person that was running it. So like, it just didn't work out to where we would be partners. And so I step away, which that's a whole story in itself. I step away and I'm like, I'm gonna go build my own thing. Meanwhile, ladies, always make sure you get paperwork with stuff, okay? Because meanwhile, I have another person that comes in and is like, I wanna be your business partner. I wanna help build out a sales training company with you. I'm like, yeah, this is a great idea, right? Which everything happens for you. And so I work with this company, and basically they help people like build like coaching programs online. And they had 270 clients, some that were brand new, some that were making $1 million a month. And they're like, I want to be business partners with you. Like, we're going to build out this organization. And I want you to just come follow me around as a CEO and watch how I run the operations of my company. So for the next several months, I'm watching everything and I'm learning. I'm like helping with sales with the company. I'm taking some sales calls here and there, but basically just learning how to be a CEO, learning the different operations of the company, learning how to talk to people, learning how to be in leadership. And we do this huge event where we close $330,000 in a week, which is absolutely crazy. And part of those funds were going to go into the sales training company to start launching the sales training company. So during this whole entire time that I was doing this, I literally only made $8,000 from that 330 grand, which I was used to making over $35,000 a month. So at that point, that was really, really hard and frustrating. But I had like this vision of like, hey, I'm going to build something. I'm going to build something. I'm going to build something. And so this company is getting an award at ClickFunnels. And so there's like a big event called Funnel Hacking Live. And I felt like there was just this weird like vibe that was going on with the team and me. I'm like, I feel like they didn't want me to be there. I didn't know what was going on. And so I asked them, like, do you even want me to go to this thing? And they were like, do you want to go? I'm like, well, yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. So I go to this event. And at this time, I've been single for almost 2 years. Okay. And I was very, very clear on what I wanted in my life, because I'd been through so much heartbreak, so many issues, and I just like didn't want to play games anymore. And I had written out when I was 25 years old a list of every single thing that I wanted in a man. And it's a very long list, several pages long. Everything about him: taller than me in heels, what he likes when he wakes up in the morning, what he does when there's a situation that's hard, all this stuff about him. And when I was 25, which at this point in the story, I'm 29, so 4 years before this, when I was 25, when I wrote out that list, I got to the bottom of that list and I realized something that was really, really important. I asked myself, was I the woman that was going to attract the man on that list? And at the time, I really wasn't, right? It was like, we fly first class everywhere. He likes designer clothes, showers me in designer. He is, a leader, speaks on stages with me, communication, driven, all this amazing stuff about him being a thought leader, and all this stuff about who this man was. And I honestly was not the woman that would attract that man at that time. And so I had worked for years just on myself and really working on becoming successful, I think, in my mind, because I really wanted to be worthy of somebody that would come into my life like that. Now, is that the right thought? No. Learning how to be worthy is within yourself. But I definitely think that that was driving me so much to be successful, was because I really, really wanted an amazing relationship like that. Like, that was really important to me. And I think as women, like we crave that. We crave family. We crave love, even more so than our careers sometimes. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that because I always just really wanted to have a family. And I really haven't had a family since I was a young girl. And that's really what's driven me, in my life to have that. I really, really craved that. And so back into the scene, um, I'm going to this event and I'm telling my whole team, I'm like, I'm going to find my husband here. My husband is at this event, right? And the list that I wrote, 4 years ago, I had met somebody previously and we dated for a while and I thought that they were the person on the list. And when we broke up, I added a lot more things to this list. And there was this time period where I felt so lonely, okay? So lonely. I cried myself to sleep so many nights and I felt like this void in my heart. Like I was like, man, I have so much love to give in my heart and there's nobody there. And everyone that I talked to, it was so hard because I would have so many people that would tell me, like, if I liked a guy, they're like, no, I don't wanna ruin what we have here. I feel like it's more valuable to do business with you than to date you. Which means that I was in my masculine energy all the time and I would repel masculine men. And I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me because I'm like, before I would have all these guys that wouldn't take me seriously, right? And that would just wanted to date me and felt like they were trying to use me. And now I have all these guys that don't want to freaking date me. It's because I was on my complete masculine. I had no idea that I was doing something wrong. And doing all this work, feeling all this loneliness, I started to really want to manifest this relationship into my life. And so one thing I did was starting to like talk to my person. I saw this woman on stage, she would talk about this, like talking to, your man that doesn't exist yet. And so like I would get ready with my girlfriends out in Miami and I would stop and I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, baby, I can't wait to meet you. Like I look so freaking good right now. Like you are the luckiest man in the world. And I would come home sometimes. I'm like, hey, babe, I'm home. Like, it sounds so weird, but I would just like have these conversations and I would pray for him every single night. So I'd be praying, like, God, like wherever he is right now, help him find me. I pray that whatever he's going through right now, I pray that you give him peace. I pray that you um, help him get ready for me and help him know when he sees me that it's me and have no questions in his mind. And I would pray for this man every single night. And going back to the scene of going to this event, Funnel Hacking Live, I'm like, I'm gonna meet my husband here, okay? So I'm at this event and the first day, goes by. I think we're all like drinking and stuff, and I'm like completely hungover the next day. It's awful. And that night is the award ceremony. And I pushed myself all the way through that day to go to that award ceremony. And we get the award, I leave. And the whole time I was like, hey, I think it was the next day. The next day, I'm like, hey, when are they going to give out the big awards? Because my husband's on that stage. And they were like, oh, they gave them out last night. I'm like, damn it, my husband was up there. What the hell? And everyone's like, Kayla's going to find her husband, right? Like, we're just all laughing about it. And so that next day, I'm in the hallway and I'm walking out of one door and I'm walking outside where all the food trucks are and I'm walking in and I'm having this conversation with myself like, Kayla, you need to start networking with people. You used to do event sales. You used to talk to people all the time. This is where the money's at. This is where you can talk to people. Like you need to be having conversations with people because I really kept to myself, especially because I was really hungover the day before. I'm like, all right, we're back on it, baby girl. Like, let's go. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start talking to people. And so I'm walking in and I see this guy walking by with all of these tattoos. And I felt like this weird urge inside me that's like, talk to this guy. And I'm like, no, talk to him. I'm like, talk to him. It was 3 nudges. It was the weirdest. I remember it so vividly, 3 nudges. And I'm like, hey, bro, nice tattoos. And the guy looks at me, he's like, you want $200? I'm like, what is going on right now? And so apparently before this, Jeremy and his company had 2 business partners at the time. And they have this idea where they were like, let's go around and let's ask people objections and see if they can handle an objection, and we'll give them money and we'll record it. It'll be great for marketing. And Jeremy's like, no, I don't want to do that. That sucks. That's a bad idea. Like, let's not do that. They're like, come on, come on, come on. He's like, fine. So they all walk out of this room. And as they're walking out of this room is when I'm walking in. So that's the scene. I'm the first person. I'm like, hey, hey bro, nice tattoos. You want $200? And I'm like, what? He's like, all you have to do is overcome a money objection, and if you can, I'll give you $200. I'm like, I'm about to make $200. And so I go with the other business partner. He gives me money objection. I, tell him the money objection. I get the $200. He goes, hey, do you want to meet Jeremy Minor? And I have like a slight photographic memory. I didn't really know who Jeremy was before this, not at all. However, I saw an ad a week before this online about his like black book of questions or something like that. And I clicked on it and it said it was like $27. This guy like has a new way of selling and completely changed. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, I'm like, no, I'm not paying $27 for this book. And I didn't think about it again. Okay. But I remembered his username because I have a photographic memory. So this whole thing is on video, mind it. So our very first interaction is completely recorded. Let me see if I can play it. I can play it right here. It's completely recorded. And basically I'm like, oh my God, it's Jeremy Minor. So nice to meet you, right? And Jeremy tells me his perception is that he was talking to a client and all of a sudden he looks over and he's like, oh my God, who's that? It's just fun. And so I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. I didn't think anything of it. I'm more excited about the $200. I take a picture with him. I go on my story and I'm like, hey, I think I actually have it on my phone. This is so great because I have it right here. I have this first interaction. I'm like, I'm so excited. I just got this $200. If it plays, come on. There we go.
I'm not Jeremy Lee Minor, and they made me do a overcome an objection. You'll get $200, and guess what? Kayla got $200 for overcoming a money objection. Let's get it.
That's us. Our very first day of meeting. And so because I tagged him, he followed me, right? He found me. So the next day, I see them, over there, and I'm extremely interested, okay? I'm like, I like men that speak on stage. I'm like, he seems like, polished, put together. He's good looking. And I'm like, he's checking off all the boxes for me, okay? Because I'm very particular on who my boxes are. And remember at this time I had been talking to my husband on my list every single day. And so I'm very, very clear. Like if I'm talking to somebody and he's not him, I'm like, you're not it. But I'm very open. So I'm like, hey, this guy might be, whatever. So I walk up and he's like, oh, #1 female sales trainer underneath 30. Like what's gonna happen when you turn 30? Right? And he was like joking with me. And apparently, because I used to have that. It's so funny. I had a mentor tell me to do that. You don't have to claim that you're the #1 ever. In fact, if you say that you're #1, like it's self-proclaimed, like you want other people to tell you that you're the best, not you do that. But again, I was really young. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, #1 female sales trainer under 30, whatever. And he's joking with me. And so I don't know if he likes me. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to bro him out. I'm like, hey man, I fist bump him. Hey man. And I tell him, I'm like, hey, my friend Eli Weil told me he knew you. I'm glad that you guys know each other or something along those lines. And so I'm just having conversation with him. Now, one thing that I know about men is that men love to give advice. So I start asking him very, very pointed questions on purpose and see what he says. And again, this is all recorded. So I'm like, what's your favorite sales book? And I'm telling him, I'm like, oh, I love sales because of this and this. And I'm talking to him and I'm like twirling my hair, I'm looking at him, all those things. And I can't really tell if he likes me or not, right? At all. And so the next day I see him in the hallway and I go to him and I'm like, oh my God, Jeremy. And like, we're walking together and I go give him a big hug. And he's like so awkward. He's like, like trying to give me a hug. And I walk away. And then later on that day, I'm walking with one of my teammates and I'm like, hey, we're gonna walk by and I'm gonna laugh. And if he looks at me, that means he likes me. Like this is the play. If he looks at me, that means he likes me. So we're walking by and laughing, ha ha ha. I'm like, is he looking? He's like, he's staring right at you. I'm like, yes, like I'm in, okay, I'm in. And so it's the very last day of the event. I didn't see him again. And my team that I'm with is throwing a party. Now, I don't want to throw a freaking party. I want to go home, okay? I want to go home. I hadn't drank for the rest of the time because I had that one night that I drank too much. And I want to go home because my daughter's at home. And we're all leaving in a big Suburban back to the house, and we have this like application thing where you can apply to come to the party. And all of a sudden the guy that's driving is like, oh my God, Jay Minor just registered for the party. And everyone's freaking out like, oh my God, Jeremy's coming. And in my mind, I'm like, he's coming for me. Like, he's coming for me. And he told me that he was leaving the event, and Eli Wild like walked by him at the event and was like, hey man, what are you doing tonight? He's like, oh, I don't know, I might go back to my room. He's like, hey, they're throwing a party, you wanna come? He's like, well, who is it? And he told him who it is. He's like, oh my God, maybe Kayla would be there. He's like, yeah, you have to register. He's like, why do I have to register? He registers. And he brought his videographer, and he had a plan. He's like, we're gonna go to the house, we're gonna do a lap. If she's not there, we're gonna leave. Okay. So I'm in the Suburban, we're on our way home, and they say, hey, we have to wear our shirts at the party tonight so we can all be uniform. And I'm like, I'm not wearing this shirt, okay? Meeting this man tonight, like that's not what's gonna happen. So I'm like, guys, I'm sweating, I stink, I can't wear this, I need to wear something else. And I have like this cute little skirt on, whatever. And so I'm being patient. And I remember like, I almost messaged him on Instagram and been like, hey, like, heard you're coming to this party tonight, can't wait to see you. And I was like, no, Kayla, if a man wants you, like, he's gonna come after you, like, just receive. I'm like, okay, just gonna wait. And he got to the party, and somebody comes up, and they're like, he's here, he's here. And I just remember, like, I do this whole, like, lip of my hair thing. I'm like getting ready. I walk up to him, I'm like, hey. And we talked all night long. At one point, I think he was talking about some book. I was like, oh, you should send that to me. And I was like, here, like, what's the best number to text me that? And I think that I got his phone number. He thought that he got my phone number. So we thought we one-upped each other by getting each other's phone numbers. And we talked for 4 to 5 hours all night long about so much sales stuff, sales, persuasion, psychology, and we're just like geeking out about so much great stuff. And we're outside, we're talking with other people, and all of a sudden somebody comes up to us and they're like, hey, the party's over, like you guys gotta go, like you gotta go home. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I look around and there's nobody outside. We were standing outside by the pool by ourselves. I had no idea. I thought there was a bunch of people out there. And again, I wasn't drinking. I was just like so enwrapped in a moment that I thought would last forever. And he was staying so close to me. And he's like, so close. And I'm like, I'm not gonna kiss you. He's like, I'm not gonna kiss you. And I'm like, you're standing this close to me. He was. So he gives me a big hug and he goes inside. And so he calls an Uber, and then he comes up to me in front of everybody, in front of everyone, and puts his hands on my face like this. And he's like, it was so nice, or it was such a pleasure meeting you. It was so nice to meet you, something like that. And everyone's like, he gives me a big hug and leaves. And everyone's like, oh my God. And then my team was like, #1 sales couple in the world. Kayla, don't mess this up. And I was like, what the heck? And the next morning, he messaged me, and we talked every single day since, you know. And it was so interesting because we met each other in really weird periods of our life. And this was September 22nd, 2022, okay? And the person I was launching it with, where we had all those hundreds of thousands of dollars that was supposed to pour into it, the week I launched it, we were supposed to do a bunch of ads. My ad accounts weren't new, so I didn't have a bunch of people on. Anyways, we only sold 2 people. So I had 10 grand that came in. I have to pay my team, and they decide, they're like, you know what? I don't want to be business partners with you. The 10 grand that came in, I'm actually going to keep that. You're off on your own. And that felt like rock bottom. It was really hard. And it was really interesting because I remember wanting to talk to Jeremy about it, you know, because I was just like, hey, I don't know what to do. And I was like, no, I don't want to ruin my potential relationship with this guy. I'm going to figure this stuff out on my own, right? And so I didn't really tell him anything that was going on, and I figured it out. And I started my own thing. We started selling just to women. My team and I, like, we figured out the people that bought were only women. They're like, what if we made this just for women? And so we started building this thing for elite saleswomen. And I had elite saleswomen, the URL, I've had it for over 2 years at this point because I bought it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the perfect name. Like, let's do this. And so we started building this company, not knowing what we're doing. My team of like 9 people, we're figuring it out as we go. And Jeremy and I are starting to talk to each other and to get to know each other and to fall in love with each other, head over heels with each other. And he comes out maybe like 6 weeks afterwards, takes me out to Miami. And, you know, it was just so special. I remember him in Miami, me going to meet him. And I'm sitting across from him at this table. And it was the weirdest thing because anytime in a relationship, like when it started, I always would get those butterflies, right? I'm like always like so excited and I get those butterflies. And what I found out is that you having butterflies is actually your nervous system feeling like you're unworthy of a person, which is very interesting. And when I met him that day and he sat in front of me, it felt nothing. Like almost like bored for the first few seconds. I was talking to him. There was like no like butterflies. It just felt calm, chill, normal. And I remember a woman that told me that this, she was like, when you meet that person, you'll find your husband. And it was weird because when I was standing in front of him like that, I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna be my husband. I remember thinking like that that first day, on our first date. And meanwhile, I'm building the sales training company and I'm dating him and I'm trying to navigate what it's like to be in a relationship, especially with somebody that has 5 kids, somebody that's going through a divorce, right? And really trying to figure out like what to trust, what not to trust, and trying to navigate this whole thing, trying to navigate myself, trying to navigate running a company, trying to navigate being a mom, like all this different things. We live in 2 different states, like there were so many different aspects of it, but the one thing that I knew is that I was just like so infatuated with him and felt so seen. I just felt like I found my person. You know, it was like, because it was like he was like a guy version of me. We thought the same. His background, my background was so similar. Behavioral psychology, like we could just talk about so many really cool things. And he came to me and we were talking about like 7th level and what they were doing. They're like, you know what, less than 20% of all of our clients are women. Like we really need somebody to come in and run the women's division of 7th level. So he brought it back to his business partners. They were like, yeah, like let's see what she does. Let's see what her company does. And the first 3 months, like we did over 6 figures. And so they started analyzing like our P&Ls and everything. And we're like, hey, like let's do like some type of merger. Like basically we're gonna buy out my company. We're gonna acquire my company. And I'm like, this is so exciting. We're acquiring my company, all this stuff. Him and I are getting closer. And we decide that like, hey, like we love each other. Like I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move to Scottsdale. And so in February, I moved to Scottsdale and we moved into the same building because we didn't want to move in together yet because of my daughter and we want her to get acclimated and try to do it the right way. So I'm on the 7th floor, he's in the 8th floor of this building and we're figuring this out and 7th level is acquiring elite saleswomen. And so the way the agreement worked was like, it was a 7-month agreement where basically they would put me on a salary and they would have full directional control of my company. So they have full control. And I don't really get to say a lot of stuff, which was like the hardest part, you know, just trusting the process. And then after the 7 months, I would start getting dividends of profit. And so we start going into this thing and they start pouring tons of money into my marketing, help me grow my social media, help me with ads, like all this stuff. But it seemed like when we were going it almost too fast. Like a lot of leads were falling through the cracks and you know, we would do master classes and stuff together and they would want me to do it with somebody there in 7th level, which was a guy. So a lot of these women were having a hard time. They're like, why is this master class for women? And there's a guy on there. And so there's just issues. And it was causing havoc in my relationship because I was talking to Jeremy like, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this. And then the business partners were like, it was just like, all of it was a little hectic. And what we realized is maybe we should keep our own things to save our relationship. So after the 7 months, I got to keep all my stuff, and we went back to lead saleswomen, and then they kept doing their thing. And Jeremy and I are starting to like feel like tension in our relationship. And I think that this has been one of the biggest years for growth for us, like personally, and learning how to be in relationship with one another. You know, I've had a really, really hard upbringing. Jeremy did too. And we found that our attachment styles were completely different. You know, me, I have anxious attachment styles where I get really clingy if there's something wrong. He has avoidant attachment styles where if something's wrong, he wants to avoid, right? Super bad. We also didn't realize what it was like to be feminine or masculine in a relationship. We had no idea what the hell that was, right? Me, I'm used to running everything, being in control, being in my masculine all the time. And when you are masculine with your man, okay, and he allows you to lead, and he is emasculated in any way, like he starts to like resent you. And so we were having these issues where things that he used to love, like my playfulness and my silliness, would start to annoy him. And like we didn't know what the hell was wrong. And we're just trying to navigate this thing. We're running companies, we're going all this stuff, and we love each other, but we just didn't feel as close. And we didn't know what was wrong. And we just kept pushing through, you know. His divorce that was supposed to take 6 months ended up taking over 2 years, okay? And there was so much patience, you know, that was required for me, because our expectations and what we were thinking getting into this were reality. And we were just so excited to be in a relationship that we moved so quickly, moved there and tried to figure it out because we loved each other so much. And we just didn't really understand like the dynamics of everything, the dynamics of blending a family, my daughter's trauma around other guys, and trying to get her to get used to him. You know, it took my daughter a year to even be nice to Jeremy. She used to give him dirty looks and stuff. It was so bad. And we're just like trying to figure all this stuff out. Meanwhile, I fall deeply in love with Jeremy's kids. They're so amazing, so smart, so spunky. Everyone has their own personality. I'm just like, I love them so much. And we're just trying to figure out this thing called life and running business and everything else all at the same time. Now, when we go back into the sales training, what was really cool is that when they acquired my company, they had multiple people in Jeremy's company, 7th level, go through all my training programs. And the one thing that they asked was like, hey, did like Jeremy train you? Like, did you go through Jeremy's stuff? And I had never gone through any of our stuff, of his stuff. But it was so aligned because our backgrounds were so similar, because we think so similarly. Jeremy, what he did that was really brilliant. First of all, I felt like he gave me structure to my flow. So like I had a way of doing things, but I didn't name my questions yet. So before like heart-driven sales became R.E.D, first NEBQ R.E.D, then R.E.D, I didn't really have structure. I was just like, this is the process of doing this. He gave me structure, and he added different questions that really helped. First was questions that figured out patterns of what somebody did before today and learning how to change them in the middle of the call versus the end. So good. That's in my past awareness. That's in Jeremy's solution awareness. Brilliant. Also, consequence and ramification questions. How to get somebody to think about what's going to happen if they don't change today. So that I had no idea about that. He added that, which definitely was so much of a game changer. And so when they went through this process with us, it was really interesting because I was so honored for it to be so similar, and I was so blessed to be in a place where I could be a sponge and learn so much. And I think that there's something really beautiful with having like a man in your life that can lead you and can inspire you. Because for me, in every relationship I've ever been in, I've always outgrown the guy. So we would start on the same path, and then I would outgrow him and outgrow him and outgrow him. And one thing I love about Jeremy is that he is so committed to growth. He reads more books than anyone I know, listens to more podcasts, or not really podcasts, but trainings, audios, audiobooks, every single day, like so committed to learning and becoming the best. That inspired me to also have like the same drive and do the same. And going through our methodologies and how everything changed, it was really beautiful how we went into this transition. When I was acquired, we took heart-driven sales, we made it NEPQ R.E.D, right? The women's version, a feminine version of NEPQ. And the one thing that was different from our stuff than Jeremy's was I realized that a lot of these women needed additional help besides sales skills. A lot of them had trauma, things that they went through in their life, and through different interventions and breakthroughs during these sales training calls with these women, I was able to help them have a lot of consistency. So we added a lot of more mindset and leadership development and trauma training into our programs to really help these women thrive. Now, after we did the separation of the companies, I went back to just R.E.D. And so Jeremy and I sat out in our kitchen because I think we moved in together at that time. We sat down in our kitchen and we're like, how do we create this methodology, to where it sounds good and help me come up with the questions. So we sat down and we came up with the different questions together and really built out this methodology together. And I'm super grateful that Jeremy's poured so much into everything that I've done and it's really helped. And we set off for the races. As soon as my company went off on my own, it has grown so much. And one thing that I did really make sure of was not to go too fast, because that's what happened before. I went too fast and then there was breakage. So I slowed the processes down. I was like, how do I create a raving culture? How do I make sure that my women get results better than anyone else? How do I make them feel so seen, so safe, so heard, and really give them the accountability that they need so that they can actually become successful? So my team really boiled down and we really created just intimacy within our group to help these women. And we exploded. And a slow growth, which was really beautiful. But at the same time, I didn't really need to work. Jeremy and I were living together. I didn't pay her rent for the first time in my life. And I just loved what I did. I'm like, I just want to contribute. I want to help. I want to inspire women. I want to help them get to the next level. And I was working literally part-time in this company that I was building, and we were doing amazing. And I was so, so grateful for all the women and the experiences they were having and the breakthroughs they were having and the money that they were making. And I was just cheering them on. And I felt back in control, felt safe financially, and everything was good. Hell yeah, let's go. Putting me on a salary for 7 months was freaking rough, especially when you're used to making your own money. But this past year has been one of the hardest years, I think, in our lives. Learning how to navigate being in a relationship and being in commitment with one another. Jeremy and I went through a really, really rough time this past year. That was public, online, which was hard, where Jeremy and I basically ended things. And for me, it came completely out of the blue. I had no idea that it was really that bad. And I think it's just because we just didn't know how to communicate with each other. I didn't know that, he really felt like he couldn't breathe in the relationship. And I really didn't know how to communicate in a better way and how to take care of myself before I showed up for it. So we basically have this whole thing that happens in September where Jeremy ends things, and I'm back in my survival soldier mode, and I'm I need to take care of everything. And I move all my team and my daughter and me all the way back to Miami. And when I did this, I felt like the scariest thing that could ever happen to me happened. And so I just had to save myself. And for the first time in my life that I actually could, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, move myself back. And a month before this happened, I had this really come to Jesus moment where I found myself in our bedroom and I was falling to my bedroom floor and just bawling my eyes out for 10 minutes, listening to worship music, feeling like God was calling on my heart. And so at that moment, I stopped drinking, which I haven't drank since then. How many days has it been since August 4th? 173 days ago. So I haven't been drinking, which I don't think I'll ever stop drinking officially forever, but I just haven't really felt the need to right now. And I'm laying on my floor and I'm bawling my eyes out and I'm crying. I felt like God was asking me for a surrender in my life. This is the time we are going to surrender. We are going to build your company and you need to be focused. And so I didn't know what was going on with my relationship and everything else. And I was just I just need to be praying. So I was praying for my relationship, praying for me, praying for Jeremy. And then a month after I've been praying every day and been doing all this inner work and working on me and getting happy again. Like, we break up. And I'm like, what the hell, God? Because anytime ever in my life where like a guy breaks up with me or I break up with a guy or whatever, it's because like I was in a really dark place. And for the first time, like I wasn't in a dark place. I was in a dark place before that, but not for a whole month, right? And I had a choice. I'm like, do I like self-destruct right now? Part of me was like, I'm flying to Italy. Fuck this. I want spaghetti every day. Like, I'm done. Part of me is like, maybe I'll just move to Dubai, like get a guy that can like, you know, give me a camel. Like, I don't know. I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm just like, I give up. And then other part of me was like, no, like you have a mission here and like, we are going to put your head down. And so I chose to surrender and trust. I'm like, God, like I have no idea what's going on with Jeremy right now, but like, please help him. And I wrote in a notebook every single day, and every single day I prayed. I woke up every single morning and bawled my eyes out for 20 minutes, basically every morning in a closet, and prayed for him, and prayed for us, and prayed for our future, and like what was gonna happen. And I was like, God, if like he's supposed to be my man and my husband, like figure it out because this is on you. Like I can't, like I don't know what to do. And I noticed that like there was so much introspection within myself. Like I realized like in my relationship for those like 2 years, I had like royally fucked up. Royally fucked up. In a sense of like, I lost myself completely. I moved all the way to Scottsdale because I was so in love and so excited that I felt like I lost who I was. I left all my friends, lost everything, went there and made my whole entire universe revolve around him. And then was disappointed with the fact that he was so busy. And like was so clingy, so needy with different stuff that would come up, and completely didn't know how to make myself happy. And it felt so weird because I was like, my clients loved me and everyone cared about me then. And I felt like I was so seen by them that at home I felt so alone. And I felt like I would go to Jeremy to get the love and the affection and stuff that I needed to give myself. I wasn't giving that to myself at all. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't praying. I wasn't taking care of me like at all because I was so desperate to want a family. Because the little girl inside of me, all she ever wanted was to be in a family. And because I like finally found this man and there was like this hope of like, oh my God, like I want us to be a family and all this stuff, that like I was clinging onto that vision so much that I was losing myself. And during this time, moving back to Miami, moving my team back here, I made this commitment to like really heal and figure out what the hell I did wrong. You know, because it takes two people, right? It's not just one person or another person, it takes two people. And so I started listening to a lot of Allison Armstrong stuff, started doing a lot more trauma therapy. I meet with 2 different mentors each week, like doing deep trauma work and healing and trying to figure out like what the hell is going on with me and why am I showing up this way? And what I realized is that I was in my masculine in my relationship. And that Jeremy and I, even though we are extremely great communicators, like the best communicators, we don't know how to communicate with each other. And that we didn't understand the skill of what it's like to have a healthy relationship because we're different. And things that I thought he should know, he doesn't think about because he's a guy. And guys' brains and women's brains think completely different. And I had no idea that that was going on. And you know, working on me and making a commitment to be like the best that I can be, I had no idea that at the same time, Jeremy had stuff going on for him as well. And he went and met with one of my trauma therapists too, and sat with them and was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but like what the hell happened? And she's like, hey, like, yeah, you're like basically So during this whole entire time, basically Jeremy is he walks into her house and he's like, oh my gosh, I feel so lonely. And he met with our trauma therapist that we both went together to, and was like, hey, like, I don't know why this keeps happening. And so then starts doing trauma work on himself, trauma work from his childhood, things that happened when he was a little kid, and why he avoids, and why, I am attached, and basically finds out all this stuff about himself. And then he starts studying every single day about relationships. So he's studying 3-4 hours a day on how to be in a relationship, starts reading books about like what women need, and he starts to understand me for the first time, start to understand like what went wrong. And so I go like, I think we went like 45 days, like no contact. And finally, the therapist that's working with both of us like arranges for us to talk. And so we get on FaceTime and I'm talking to him. And that same day, he sent 10-page letter in the mail, a handwritten letter to me about all the stuff that he didn't know about me. And I'm reading this letter and I get on a call with him that night. And it was like I'm talking to him and I wasn't mad. Even though I felt like I should be mad, I wasn't mad. I was just like, oh my God, there's my person, and we're having a conversation and he's like telling me about how we try to do things separately for so long, and about how we could do things separately, but if we did them together, how we really could change the world. And that he didn't really notice that before. And for myself, I'm like, yeah, that's everything that I want. I want to change the world. I want to impact millions of people's lives. And he's like, something's coming for you tomorrow. So the next day, 600 orange roses show up to my place. And it's so funny because I did not have a good reaction to it. 600 roses show up at my place. And I FaceTime him and I'm like, you feel bad? I'm like, come tell me to my face. Hang up. Such a brat. He takes a red eye. He's here the next day. It was October 12th. And we had the most magical day together. For the first time, I'm talking to Jeremy and he feels like a safe haven. I got upset about something. He was like, whoa, like, what's going on? What's going on for you? How can I hold space for you? And it's like, he was back. He was back into his essence, his masculinity, and I was back into my feminine. Like, we had to pull away and heal and to show up as a more authentic version of ourselves versus like putting on masks that don't serve us and being in a place where we're butting heads. And that day we decided, for us to like rejoin forces and notice that we're like so not perfect and try to figure everything out, trying to figure out this thing called life. And over the past, that was October, now it's, January, we've learned so much about each other. We've had to talk through so much stuff, so many triggers, so many things, so much trust, all this stuff, like coming up and us talking through it and moving through it. Us continuously like working on ourselves, doing the trauma work, meeting back together, and like committed to figuring things out for each of us. And it's been such an interesting journey to like navigate, because I don't think that there's a rule book of like how to be in a perfect relationship. They are messy. And I wish that I knew everything that I know now, but it's okay. I think that being in a place where like Jeremy and I can feel now like best friends and feel like we can tell each other anything, and where we can navigate different aspects of our life and be on the same page and be in the same vision of what we want for our lives, and learning how to kind of figure out how it would look like for us to, merge things together and support one another with his vision, my vision, and us come together as one unit, has been so interesting and so beautiful. And, we're still navigating that and figuring it out. At the end of the day, it all comes back to like transforming people's lives. And if you want to transform someone's life, you have to be willing to transform your own. And in order to influence and lead somebody else, you have to be willing to influence and lead yourself. And one thing about that man and I is that we're so committed to becoming the best versions of ourselves no matter what. Regardless of how vulnerable it is, regardless of how messy it is, regardless if we mess up, like we own our shit. And we are so committed to grow, so committed to becoming more than we ever been before, because our vision is so big, because we want to impact so many people's lives, because we want to help so many people. And learning how to do that, learning to love ourselves in such a deeper way has only brought us closer together. And I'm so grateful for him in my life, for the impact that he's had on my life, and for him stepping up right now in such a powerful way. You know, we were able to go to Date with Destiny with my daughter in December. My daughter had a huge breakthrough with Tony Robbins. It was so incredible. Him and I doing work, getting closer together, starting to understand each other even more. And the shift that I've seen in him over the past just month alone has been incredible. Him learning how to not only just use his sales skills, but using his ability to influence and help get people out of their mindset so that they can actually really want a different life for themselves. And him stepping into this vulnerability in his stories when he's on stage, and like connecting to the audience more, connecting to his story more, connecting to his purpose and his mission more, has just been so inspiring. And I'm so proud of him. And I'm so proud of him leading me and being my man, and, you know, being a person that I can surrender to, a person that can lead me, a person that I can trust. Like, I'm so proud of him for being that, because that takes so much inner work. It takes so much commitment. It's so much willingness to like fully like step into uncomfortability and face all your shit. Like, you know, and I'm just so yeah, I'm just so proud of the man that he is, and I'm so grateful for him in my life, and so excited for this next chapter of what's gonna happen. You know, and it's so interesting because I always craved this family so much, and now it's like it's coming in its perfect time. You know, I know that, you know, we're making plans and we're talking about, you know, moving back out there, and what, you know, getting married would look like, and getting engaged, all this other stuff, and like, which is all so exciting, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is like the purpose and the vision and like what we're creating every day, and getting excited and like, hey, did you see when I did that? Did you see when I did that? And us being proud of each other. You know, I was watching him on his challenge, and he's like, hey, did you see how I framed this person with this? And did you see how I did this? I'm like, oh, you did so good here. Hey, change this here. And he's like, yeah. And he's giving me tips online. And it's like, we're each other's cheerleaders. And I want everybody to have this. Everyone should be able to have this type of relationship where you guys like inspire each other to be the best versions of yourself. And that only comes with you acquiring the skills to be able to figure that out. You don't wake up one day and know how to be in a great relationship. Like, it takes work and commitment, because most people would have given up, and most people would have quit when it got hard. And you got to be willing to face through that uncomfortability, because the vision for your life and what you're wanting is bigger than how you feel right now. And for any woman that's listening to this, like, from one powerhouse woman to another, it is so difficult to let somebody lead you. Like, there's so much resistance in my body to surrender to a man to lead me when I've led myself my whole entire life. Like, that's been the hardest thing to try to learn, and I'm still learning. Like, there's still times, you know, like Jeremy and I will talk all the time, and I'll say something like, oh, well, why did this and why that? He's like, or he'll like put me in my place. You know, he's all like, you're way bigger than this, Kayla. He's all like, you can't talk about this. We're on a high level. Like, you can't talk about this. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, lead me, let's go. But that only comes with you being able to do the inner work. Because if I come to him to complain, that means that I haven't worked on myself first. And I have to lead in every area of my life. And so sometimes I can make the mistake of like thinking it's a safe place to just come to him and vent about stuff that doesn't really serve me, because no one else really gets to see me like that. But that's not the best. You know, you being able to pour into yourself so much to where there's an overflow, and your man seeing you in that place where you're happy, you know, it makes them happy. All men want to do is learn how to make you happy. Just be happy. And if you're not happy right now, get in a place where you are happy before you talk to them. Like, one thing for myself is like, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, so sometimes I have bad dreams, and I have a new rule for myself. Like, I'm not allowed to talk to Minor in the morning unless I go to the gym and move my body. No, I cannot, because I have bad dreams and I'm so anxious and my chest hurts and like all this stuff. And he talks to me and like there's just a bad energy connect. I'm like, no, no, no. Like I have to move my body or meditate or something before I have a conversation with you, sir. But then I'm happy and I'm having a conversation, everything's fine. But it's like you have to learn that shit. And you have to be committed to be showing up as your best and committed to showing up for your person and committed to the vision and the growth of what you're trying to do. And I don't need anyone to figure us out or understand anything, but I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into like, how does all the hell happen? I don't know if that makes sense. How did all this happen? And how our companies like started and how this methodology started. My vision is to create a world where like women can really light a fire in other people's hearts. I want to go into third world countries. I want to help women escape from domestic violent relationships and get out of sex trafficking and things that they were never had a choice to be in, and give them tools like skills like sales and learning how important they are so they can get out of those things and have a completely different life. Like that's my vision. That's what I'm standing for. That's my mission. And I want to help as many people as possible. And I'm really grateful to God for bringing somebody like Jeremy into my life that has the same vision with me, that wants to transform people's lives, that can pull me up, that can take me to another level, and me take him to another level in a lot of ways. I feel like he like gives me this skill and I like give him this deepening in who he is. And together it's the perfect yin and yang. And yeah, babe, I love you so much for watching this. Everything's not perfect. There's gonna be days that are hard. It's your willingness of how you want to show up. So if you don't have a relationship right now, write your list of what you want. Work on yourself to become the woman that's gonna attract that man. If you do find a relationship, work on your skill set of being in a relationship, because just because it's there doesn't mean you have to stop working. And sometimes we get so excited that it's there, we stop working on ourselves. You need to take care of you always. If you put yourself in the center of your life, right, God and then you won't ever have to worry. If you put your man as the center of your universe, it's gonna be really, really hard for you, and it's hard on them because there's lots of expectations. Pour love into yourself. I wish I learned how to do this sooner. I wish I learned how to be in my feminine sooner and not try to control because I was scared. Well, that's just healing work that I got to continue to do. And I thought that I was mostly healed by the time I met this man because I'd done so many years of trauma work and healing. But when you're in a relationship, they mirror your insecurities. They are the perfect mirror for you for every single thing that's not working. And it shows up, and now you have to have the willingness and the commitment to look at it and to work through it. And if you're unwilling to do it, you're gonna have issues. So for the woman that's listening to this right now, I appreciate you for following along this journey. And I just wanna honor you for choosing yourself and for your willingness to say yes to you. Like everything's gonna come in the perfect timing that it does. In the meantime, pray for what you want, surrender, trust the process, and work on you. I honor you. If you find this valuable, if you like this podcast, please make sure that you share it with somebody that you know, another woman that might be going through something similar. There's always hope on the other side. It's just about you continuously sticking it out, even on the days that feel hard, because on the other side of rain, there's always a rainbow. Anyways, I honor you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.